Hello, beautiful. How are you doing today? Welcome to Unfiltered episode 2. Woohoo! If you just stumbled on this video on this channel and you have been brought here maybe because you have some interest and some tiredness about the I need to fix myself life, on this channel, we talk about going beyond the healing project that our culture seems to have become so obsessed with. So, welcome. And this new series of mine of Unfiltered, I want to come on even more organically and naturally and spontaneously than I have in the past. It's always been my goal. And as many of us know, when we have something that feels true to us for some reason, uh, we seem to block ourselves and we have a lot of fears because it has something to do with breaking our patterns and the beliefs that we have about ourselves. And this is my case with Unfiltered. So, welcome. Be patient with me as I practice. Eventually, these videos of Unfiltered will be live, but for now, I'm still recording them, but with no edits. So, in the last couple videos, the Sunday Soul Sessions and Unfiltered number 1, I talked about how this culture has become so obsessed with healing. It has become like this is the only thing that makes sense in the spiritual or personal growth world. And it's like if we want to move forward, if we want to make progress in our lives, it appears like we're being made to believe, and I think a lot of people and teachers believe that the only way is to peel a layer and another and another and another and another and another until we become more and more our true self. And I am getting a little bit, beginning to question this modality, this linear way of doing things, because I really believe that there is something else that is becoming more and more accessible to us. And in the last, oh no, what did I want to say? There was a video that I did a little while ago. The title, I might change the thumbnail, so I'll give you the title, was The Problem with Constant Healing You're Not Living. And in there, I made this analogy that I came up with and I really love. And it's the idea that it's like, imagine that all of us have a piece of property and we all have a river of mud that runs through the property. And we are spending all our time in that river, sifting through, removing the boulders and the stumps and the pebbles and this and that, and trying to sift through that mud until it is clear water. And while we do that, while this river does exist, we are forgetting everything else that's going on our property and in other people's properties, but all the beautiful things that are happening, the people that we could meet, the things that we could do that are pleasurable, and just the rest of life that does not require us to make that muddy river clear as a prerequisite to being able to go and enjoy life. So I have big questions about that. And in the last 2 videos, the last Unfiltered and the last Sunday session, I also brought up some ideas about pattern disruptors, the idea of quantum presence, a state of listening and altering things for us by listening, and also the idea, the concept, I guess, of our quantum brewing phase. That when we think nothing is happening, something is actually happening in the background on a different level, and that when we think we are stuck, we are often, not always, but often not actually stuck. And there are other things going on. So the last video where I talked about this was You're Not Stuck. That was the name of the video. So talking about pattern disruptors, those of you who have been listening to me and following my personal little story and saga know that I am now in Quebec and spending a couple months here to be around my mom. And it came from not being able to find a place to live in Massachusetts, and at the last minute that I had to get out of my house, put everything in storage, and I was inspired for to the idea of coming here, and I followed that calling, that those instructions, or that inspiration, however you want to call it. And when I decided to come here, when I finally made the choice, was at the same time as the inspiration come, it was I had this idea that on some profound level, coming here was going to be very healing for me personally. This was not only about spending beautiful time with my 90-year-old mother. And I had always had, for decades, I've had resistance in coming back to Quebec for some reason. I live in the US. And coming back here for some reason would really stir things up and kind of do this to my guts. And I would just like, if somebody suggested, why don't you just come back to Quebec? I'm from here originally. And I was like, I would react like inside, it would trigger me deeply. And I knew there was something there, but I just kind of, I guess it just wasn't time. There's also a question of divine timing, right? It just wasn't time for me to do it. But this time, when this happened and I followed, I knew there was something really important. And what I realized in terms of transformation was that this land here, I call it the land of origin. The land of origin where I made decisions about life, and decisions like that the world wasn't safe, that people were not safe, because as a child I was severely bullied. It's pretty sad story. It is a story, but it's a sad story. And I also made the decision, the belief that life was about survival, because at the time I was 11 years old, I had ulcerative colitis at a time where it was unseen in children. And in the following years, I almost died a few times and all that. So it was very severe. So I made the decision that life was hard, that my body was sick, and that being human was difficult, along with all kinds of other false beliefs and things that I created that define my own little private matrix. And I was sensing that if I came here this time in the whatever part I'm at, or the dispositions that I have inside of me these days, that somehow I was receptive to that change and I was really open to doing it. And when I made the decision, actually, after I came here, right, a couple of days after I had arrived, I called a friend and we talked about all our journeys and healing and all the stuff we go through. And she was asking me, so how do you think you're going to do that healing? She's a coach. And she was asking, like, are you going to have conversations with people? Are you going to I don't know. I don't, all the things that, are you going to tap? Are you going to talk to your inner child? Are you going to reenacting? Are you going to deal with family, constellation, all the things that we do for healing? And when she asked that, my answer was like, no, I have no plans for this. And this is where this pattern interrupter comes in. One, for making the decision to come here and break my several patterns. And two, here, my decision or my feeling of being done with that healing project in the way that we're being taught these days how to do it. I got here and I felt like a profound healing was going to occur, and it would not require any of my active involvement, or the deep journaling and all the things that I named before. And I really felt like coming to this land. I've listened to some of you, probably most of you know them, like Gregg Braden, and I listened to a couple of videos by Dr. Sue Morter. They were recent guests on many podcasts, including School of Greatness with Lewis Howe. And for a long time, I'm aware, I've done a lot of work with the energies inside. And coming here, I had a feeling that something would happen with those energetic structures, like some intangible, invisible geometry in my own inner construct, and that I had my original geometry or circuitry, if you will, and that coming here, the original, and then the one that altered my original pure me from all my traumas here, and things have been altered. And my sense was that coming here, if I stayed open enough and fluid enough, those structures were going to reorganize themselves with the at the for them according to the time, like before I made all these decisions about myself, my life, and the world. And it's been it's been pretty darn amazing since I've been here. um, I don't want yet to tell you all those stories because, yes, they're very personal, although I am very personal here, but also because I don't want to get ahead of myself. Sometimes we're on a evolution track or expansion track or healing track, if you want to call it. And then we kind of fall back for a little while, or it's not quite what we thought. So I don't want to do that. And also, there's this belief or knowing that sometimes when we share things too early, um, we kind of pollute, if I can say, the energy. It's like a sacred garden that we have where magical things are happening, miraculous things are happening. And once you start opening the doors to other people, it's like it takes away some of the power of what's going on in there. That's why a lot of rituals and things are in enclosed spaces, right? It's to kind of hold that energy. So I don't want that to happen because I also know that when we're on a good streak in life and things are like progressing and we feel joy and things are going well, um, we want to ride it when it's good. So, try to avoid the things like even the conversations or people or the oversharing, that anything that could um, get us off track, because we have enough tracks where things are challenging and difficult. And when we have a good moment, one of our jobs is to stretch it, it's to protect it and live it as long as possible so that there is new rewiring that's happening. So I'm not going to go further for now of my personal stories about this aspect of my current journey. But there is something that I want to talk about that happened this morning because it's quite interesting. Today, I had evidence of disruption of another kind, beyond the emotional changes, physical, emotional, like when you're doing something, all these things are changing in us. There are also changes that seem to be thrown at us. And I remember some time back, I read something or listened to something by Martha Beck. I really love her, so down to earth and knowledgeable and fun and everything that I like. Um, and she was talking about when you do changes in your personal life, inner changes, that usually your family or the closest people around you will kind of, she calls them change back attacks. And the idea is that when you change the dynamic, the existing thing that everybody's comfortable with. And although when we are the ones who make the change, we're okay with those changes. But the people on the other side of the equation, this little balancing act that exists, they didn't choose to make any changes. They liked it just how it was or not ready to change. And that's something I experienced last fall. I made a visit here, and there was some very interesting dynamics that happened with a sibling. And it was so clear. It was like, I'm not ready for you to be a different person. I want little old victim Annie that is easily whatever. So, so where was I going with that? So anyway, that there will always be backlash for people in that are close around you, know you well, with whom you have a system that's established and that is in balance. And if you change, things are going to happen like backlash, because they will engage you, they will trigger you, or somebody's going to get really sick, or I mean real things that they might not even be doing consciously, but are going to happen because you are upsetting the apple cart. And so what happened this morning, as I feel I am changing my own energy and my own paradigm, I got an email, a text. When I left, I asked the neighbor if I could forward my mail there. And the woman, the wife, said absolutely no problem, like no biggie. While you visit, forward your mail here. That's fine. For some reason, I couldn't leave it at the other address, so I needed a place to forward it. And this morning, I get a text saying, "Annie, I don't want your mail to come here." That was the husband. "And I've taken it to the post office. I told them I didn't want your mail and that you had moved to Canada and that they could not, that you no longer lived here." And I panicked. Like inside, everything, because it was like breaking everything, the threat of breaking the beautiful energy that I'm in right now, the problems that would cause, all the places that would get my mail back, and then all the administrative work that it would entail to try to fix it. And I was upset. And so I called that friend, and very upset, saying, "Oh, Diane, this happened. What do I do? Like, help me." And one of the things that she did was tell me, "Whoa, Annie, like, calm down, take a breath. This is going to be okay." And then she went on to talk about these change back attacks in a different way that I hadn't thought about. But when we change our circuitry, our energy, how we stand in life, however you want to define it, we are changing the energies of our normal. We are changing things in our own personal matrix. We are changing things in our bodies. We're changing an aspect in the universe. And there will be repercussions. Because if there is something that is in equilibrium and you toss something in here and shake it up, and it's no longer how it was being held, there is going to be backlash. And that was one of those examples. So this morning I had that. At the same time, my phone that was almost out of battery, it kept telling me that it could no longer recharge. And then I had ordered something on Amazon, and Amazon was telling me that my account didn't exist. Those three things at the moment. And what was, I'm looking at, I have a couple notes here. Give me a second. That is the unfiltered way. Yeah, so it was just the idea that when we're changing things, we are creating a glitch in our matrix, and there's going to be some free games as a result, and it's going to slap us back and say, whoa. So whether it's oh yeah, and something that Diane pointed out too was that that's the really important part, is that when that happened, I went back to my survival state, to my fight or flight survival state that is so familiar to me. So the backlash was being successful at disrupting my newfound state and in bringing me back to that place, which is crazy. And in my conversation with her, she's such a good coach. I'm going to put, oh no, I can't do a link. I'm not editing. Okay, so I could put it in my comment. So her email is mycoachdiane.com. So if you want to reach out to her, she is absolutely extraordinary. Anyway, and she was telling, when I was talking to her, she helped me like write the text back to the man. And I wanted to say, like, why did you do that? You should have called me first, and blah blah blah. Do you know the amount of trouble this is gonna could cause me and all that? And she was like, Annie, no. If you do that, you are placing blame, and you are putting yourself in a place of victimhood. And your new energy is not that. That's the old you. So it was like, don't blame. She guided me, and she said, look at these things and don't create more, but expect that if something else happens, it is kind of this test, if you will, or this scientific energetic backlash that is coming back to you. And look at it as proof that you are actually making real changes that is upsetting the status quo apple cart. And whether, the backlash comes from people around us, from the field, or, if that's how it works, from spiritual entities that don't want us to evolve and find our true self and becoming more divine, wherever it is, or just scientifically from the energy field, whatever it's coming from, it's really good to look at things as proof that we are making progress and that we are changing things. So that's what I wanted to share today. So if in your life, like, just change where you look at a problem from. Not always, but you'll know when. And it's like, is this as a result of profound change that I'm making? And then you deal with it. Yeah, it's upsetting. It can create work. But it's different because you can stand back a little bit and say, this is something good. This is proof of my work, and I'm going to take it. So the last thing I want to do is that on one of my previous videos, I believe it was the You're Not Stuck video, someone, it's public, so it's at Incandescent Voltage, made a comment that was so beautiful. And I just want to read two sentences of which, or one sentence of what she said, because it is so beautifully put. And she said, is that it reminds us, hang on. So that healing, maybe I had made, okay, I'm going long. I don't know how you're going to like this, or the algorithm's going to like that I'm beginning to go long form sometimes. Sometimes there's going to be just quick hits, but we're going to be 25 minutes. Anyway, we'll see. Anyway, I'll read the whole thing. What I love about the crooked tree quote, and I love it too. The idea is that trees that grow crooked live their own lives. Trees that go straight become wood. So she wrote, what I love about the crooked tree quote is that it reminds me that maybe healing is not about becoming perfectly calm, perfectly healthy, perfectly regulated, or perfectly straight. Maybe it is about learning how to live honestly, gently, and sustainably inside the life and body we actually have. Couldn't put it better. So beautiful. So thank you for that. Thank you for all your comments. I read them all. I'm super grateful. It fuels me. It makes me believe that what I'm doing, because yes, I doubt it often, but that what I'm doing is of good service, and that it is what I'm meant to do, and that it helps the world. So thank you so much for your comment. That's my proof. Please subscribe, hit the bell and the note and the all selection when you hit the bell under, so that you get notified when I post, when the Unfiltered are going to be premiering, and eventually when I go live, so that you're notified ahead of time. Okay, whew, that's it for today. I love you. Thank you for being there. And I will see you soon. Bye.